friend of mine was into martial arts for many years, and he says, we don't try and react to the punch. We roll with it. Use the opponent's own energy to kill himself, basically. In the same way, with the safety test, the woman is looking for, is it safe? For the man to get into his vulnerability, in a way, he's also got to be able to ask the same question. Are you in a place where you can hear me? And I'll open up. It might get messy. She'll feel the connection. She'll feel the power. But does she have to get into her masculine in order to hold the space for the guy to drop into his feminine emotional place?
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the TPM show. Once again, I've got Mark Hainsworth here, one of our master coaches. He's here at the TPM ranch. He has just finished leading a group of men through a very transformational, very deep process we call the alpha reset. It's like putting the reset button onto your life, reclaiming the alpha, the man that you've always had. These men that came, that had graduated the activation method with relationships, and these guys have rekindled a lot of their marriages. So I've strong-armed Mark here to come back and stay with us and talk about a subject we were talking off camera. Thanks again, Mark, for sticking around.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we were talking about off camera was the languaging of a shit test and what it really is. And for guys that don't know, if that's okay, I'll give a quick idea of what a shit test typically we talk about it. It's my definition would be a manufactured complaint, right, by a woman. So it's not real. It's a manufactured complaint in order to get a reaction of some sort.
Okay. In
order to get there. And well, you had a really interesting thought, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, we had a really interesting experience on the reset. And it was one of the men who I knew very early on had an abandonment when he was young, and there's been a lot of abandonment in his life. And he was seeing the world through the lens of, I'm going to be abandoned. That was the way he was seeing the world. And he actually brought up this topic. He says, "No, my wife's giving me shit test. And I said, okay, well, let's work with this. So I said, what mess? Give me an example. So he gave us an example of what she might say during a shit test. Mm-hmm. I said, great. And then we ran a little piece of magic. And I got him to take off momentarily the lens of fear of abandonment. So I'm going to be abandoned. He took the lens off. He heard the same words from his wife. I said, now, how are you hearing them differently? He says, she's asking for connection. I said, is she searching for safety? And he went, oh my goodness. And suddenly he was able to go, I've never seen it like this before. Took off the lens momentarily, and he could see the request for connection. Please make it safe for me. Let me know I'm safe. Let me know I'm safe. But the wording she was using could be interpreted both ways, depending on how the message was landing.
Yep.
And what brought me to this next thought was, calling this thing a shit test is something that it's like the woman, or naming it shit test, is the woman is perceived as the person who's generating the shit test. Okay? So are we actually respecting our woman, by saying, hey, you're giving me a shit test? When in actual fact, the underlying, although it's manufactured, she's testing safety.
Yes.
She's not feeling safe. So in her own way, whatever it is, she's testing for safety. If she was able to say, hey, I'm feeling unsafe right now. I want to check you're a safe place for me to land so I can open up, get vulnerable, which leads to intimacy, as we know. If there was that awareness, it's actually, we could call it a safety test. And I'm wondering how we can assist men into hearing the shit test, what feels like a shit test, and being able to take a breath and then go, What's the safety that's being asked for here? If the men were supported into going, recognize the shit test, take a breath, don't respond yet, and then go, what is it that you need? So ask the question back, what is it that you need right now to feel safe with me?
I love this. I love the idea of reframing this to a safety test.
Yes.
And so many different levels. So as you know, my wife and your partner, they all coach women. So I'm sure you share things that come out.
Yeah.
And whenever I mention a shit test, I can tell my wife's visceral reaction to it. She hasn't openly said anything about it. However, a safety test, I intuitively know that she would drop right into that conversation naturally.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a charge to the term shit test.
There is a charge.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating is sometimes if I've been working on a late call, I work these odd hours, in different time zones. And sometimes it gets to the end of my evening, I go in and I make a cup of tea and I just connect with Deb and I might have a smile on my face, or I might be, because she can tell that I'm sort of grappling with stuff. And I said, no, one of the clients says he's being shit tested. And she says, what is this shit test? And she says, why do women do this? This is a woman asking why women do it. And I said, I don't know. And I got curious. I guess I got curious about this because it's this regular question. What is this? She didn't understand it. She didn't understand the languaging.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't get it. And I thought, that's such a valid point to make. And then it just, as it happened in this Alpha Reset, I suddenly thought, it's a safety test.
Yes.
It's a safety test. And if we could engage in the conversation, we use the hidden motive. Okay, there's something going on. Wake up.
Yeah.
Hold space. What is it you need to feel safe?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I did a masterclass on handling shit tests, like an Aikido master, is what I titled it. And the thing that it was, as you're coaching something, it's always interesting to see the revelations other people are coming up with and points that they're landing to. And one of the ones that I'll give 2 points here if I can. One was the guys realizing that sometimes the woman needs to understand that she's safe by testing you to make sure she can't knock you over. She can't trigger you. Because if she can control your emotions, how the hell are you going to protect her from the guy down the street or whatever it may be? The example I think I used is the caveman, back in the primitive days. Yeah. She knows how strong or weak she is. And if she can topple you over, how the heck are you going to protect her?
Exactly. There's something else that also in that place of testing for safety. If a man can hold a space for a woman to be vulnerable so she feels safe, that fundamentally is about protection.
Yes.
It's fundamentally about protection. And you know what, I'm wondering, it's interesting where this conversation goes. I wonder how many of our men are terrified of getting vulnerable in front of the wife, because if they seem to be vulnerable, the wife goes into the perpetrator, because suddenly it's not safe for her. So she has to get strong to protect herself because the guy can't do it.
Yep.
And that is perceived as an attack by the guy in the relationship.
I think I would guess a large percentage of that. And I would also guess that it's a large percentage of men who have this fear that doesn't exist. And what I mean by that is a lot of the guys that I work with, especially on the one-on-one clients, when I get them to, I'll use the word vulnerable, even though I got to find a better word. When I get them to open up, right, into the areas that they're uncomfortable with their wife, because they don't want to be perceived as weak, right? They'll assume that she's gonna, now I'm open for attack, right? My shields are down, now I'm open for attack. Almost always the woman feels closer and feels that he's more manly. I hear that all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because women know the guys have a shield up, and they're ready for defense. And when he lets his armor down, that's when he's the most powerful, because he can handle the attacks, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't need the shields.
Well, it's a friend of mine was into martial arts for many years, and he says, we don't push against the punch. I've never done martial arts. He says, we don't try and react to the punch. We roll with it.
Yeah. Absorb the energy.
Use the opponent's own energy to kill himself, basically.
Yeah.
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 So there's that in the same way with the safety test, the woman is looking for, is it safe? For the man to get into his vulnerability, in a way, he's also got to be able to ask the same question. Are you in a place where you can hear me? And I'll open up. It might get messy.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly there's the woman's going to go, hang on, I don't know quite how to deal with this, because she'll feel the connection, she'll feel the power, but does she have to get into her masculine in order to hold the space for the guy to drop into his feminine emotional place?
I don't think so. I don't think that happens as much. I think women do this more naturally than we do. I do think there are going to be some women out there who are uncomfortable with it. I also do think there are some women who, for whatever reason, right or wrong, are going to use that as a place to attack. But I think those are fewer and farther between. I think women intuitively, in my experience and talking to women in particular, they see it as a sign of strength, and they're dying for this to happen, to be able to hold the space. They can naturally hold the space. What I really liked about what you said, Mark, is, and this is what I tell the guys to do, is pre-frame it. Like, this could get messy. Like, I don't really freaking know what I'm doing here, but I want to share something with you. Yeah. And I can tell you, every time I've done that, I've just seen the women that I've talked to just get to the edge of their seat. Like, finally, you're showing up. Like, and they're like dying for this. Yeah. So I think most women, I think the man could perceive her as being a threat, but I think most women are intuitively holding that nurturing space and are dying for it.
If they're in the feminine.
If they're in their feminine. Yeah. That's another conversation, I guess, altogether. Yeah. But I think they can dip into it rather quickly, and because we see this a lot with guys that we have a thing called the clean slate method, and when men do the clean, they're always scared, right? The guys are always nervous when we have them go through that process, and often it's received well, and if it's not received well with the vulnerability, it's usually because she's overcome with so much hurt. And when I hear a lot, and I don't know about you, is why now? After all these years. Yeah. And what I translate that to the guys is, what really she's saying is, my heart was wide open. I've now had to shut it to protect myself. Correct. And now you're showing up. So I'm scared that if I now open my heart up again, you're going to hurt me again. And so that's the visceral reaction that they're getting is her anger. Absolutely.
There's also something else I think that happens with that clean slate process, is that as the guys write the letter, they actually have to touch on their shame of the way when they realized they weren't showing up. They were hiding. Yeah. They were protecting themselves. Yeah. That this was unconscious and I wasn't aware of what I was carrying. Sure. There's a shame attached to that. Once I admit it, it's like, well, what kind of man was I actually?
Yeah. I had that same feeling.
Yeah. It's really difficult to own that. And that's why the clean slate letter process is really powerful for the men.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I remember when I was going through my own version of that process, and I really sold myself. And looking back, I knew I was lying to myself, if that makes sense. But at the time, I sold myself it was a good sales pitch, that by being stoic, I was really being strong. Yeah. Right? Yeah. By not reacting, when reality is I was scared of the other side of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing with these fitness tests that I want to touch on while we're here and guys are listening to this is, have you ever seen the movie Meet the Fockers? I think it's Meet the...
Yes. It's, the couple go off to the in-laws or something, isn't it? Yeah. It's Dustin Hoffman?
Not Dustin. Well, yeah, I think he is in that. Yeah, it's Ben Stiller. Yeah. There's a scene, and I don't know which, they've done several of them, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get the right one, but there's a scene where they're playing volleyball in the pool. And they're volleying it back and forth. The family's having fun. And he keeps making mistakes. And so they're giving him a hard time. And so the next time the ball comes over the net, he jumps up, Ben Stiller's character, and spikes the ball, to the opponent, which happens to hit his wife right in the face. And that's why I think guys handle safety tests. I like calling them safety tests. Is the woman throws out an initiation for a safety test, And the guy doesn't realize that he can use the hidden motives technique and volley it back and forth, and that can lead to intimacy. Instead, he gets triggered and he comes up and tries to spike the ball down.
Exactly.
And that ends up with her reinforcing the fact he's a jerk, et cetera, et cetera. And that causes more problems than not.
And going back to the earlier topic, if the woman in the relationship is wearing a lens that my husband's a jerk, doesn't matter what he does, the belief system will just filter out the stuff that makes him look like a jerk. So she'll spot the spiked hit back rather than the, hang on, I'm trying to understand you here.
Yeah. I do think guys can volley it. I think that's the magic trick. That's where the hidden motives, to me, looking for an analogy, it's like she's hit the ball over the fence. That's a safety test. And if you lob it back to her, she's going to hit it back again. And if you keep playing that, you can make it a fun game that leads to connection and intimacy. And you guys are both having sex, and that's a great thing. I think what most guys do, and I talked about this, is they spike the ball back just because they want to hammer down that safety test, or they throw the racket and walk off the court.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's like, they're not going to play that game, and which is also hiding internally, disconnecting, turning themselves off. They can do that, any type of sedation, right? So porn, alcohol, drugs, video games, work, whatever they want to do, they hide out.
They hide out, and using that the analogy of the volleyball game. When I'm working with the guys, I say, this hand grenade comes. It's not the volleyball; it's the hand. The hand grenade comes over the wall.
Yeah,
and look at it, and if you can just give yourself a couple of seconds to look at that hand grenade, pick it up, and go, you forgot to take the pin out, and then put it down. I've got the grenade, the pin's out, it's safe.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on.
And that's a great place for these guys to be, and guys listening to this to be. And one of the things I keep saying over and over again, because I think it's so important, is call out the obvious, right? So many people walk around and don't talk about the elephant in the room, but instead just go, hey, there's an elephant here. Let's just talk about it. And because she knows, then might as well talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lovely way that I learned is, when the trigger comes over the wall, just go, ouch. If we just say ouch, or that hurts, or I'm hurting, I can feel the energy in that, ouch. It just creates space, just a few seconds, Your brother Brad, he said the 5-second rule. It's the 5-second rule. Don't respond for 5 seconds. And in that 5 seconds, you can look down, look across, look down, pick up the hand grenade and go, got it.
Yeah. Well, that 5 seconds allows you to control your triggers.
Allows you to control the triggers. But what I think I've also realized is if there's no immediate backlash, there's no immediate reaction, it allows 5 seconds for the partner to go, what have I just thrown over that net?
Yeah.
What have I just thrown over that wall? Silence is an amazingly powerful tool to use.
I agree. I've taught a number of the guys, just like in public. Some of the guys will say, my wife belittles me in public. I go, just try this one thing. Next time she belittles you in a group, just look at her and go, are you okay? And all of a sudden she's going to realize what she's done. And so will everybody else. They'll realize what she's doing, and that'll stop it. And it works every time. I've never had a guy come back and say, nope, that didn't work. Just simple. Are you okay? And it turns it around, because then the person starts looking inward, and they're hurting. Obviously, if she's belittling you, she's hurting inside. She's crying and screaming out for safety, for connection, or whatever else it may be that she needs.
There was a wonderful phrase, similar thing. Are you okay? There was another way. So what's hurting you so much that you have to hurt me?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
What's going on right now that's difficult for you to hold, so you've lobbed it across at me?
Yeah. I like it. I think we've successfully reframed the shit test to the safety test. We better tell all the other coaches, because all of a sudden guys are going to come back.
New language, lads.
You can use both either way.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good idea for the guys listening to this to realize when they get a shit test, just to remind themselves, like, as you said, this is really a cry for safety. It's a safety test. Am I going to be able to handle this? And you can apply this to your children. You can apply this to a lot of people that are looking for that safety and that comfort. the men that listen to this are business leaders. So they may be getting these safety tests internally from their team, right? And it's a good thing for them to listen to and understand. And they can use the same tactics that they're using in their marriage, also with their team and with other people.
Exactly. Exactly. It's human connection. It happens in partnerships. It happens in all relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As always, Mark, I love our conversation. So thanks again for sticking around. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I hope you got something from this. And always, as I say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. When you're getting a safety test, I love Mark's reframe of this. It's really, really powerful. It's something that I'm going to be using in my life, also with the men that we work with. When you get that safety test, that's really someone just checking in. They're checking in to make sure you're safe. It also tells me that they respect you, right? Because you wouldn't do a safety test with someone who didn't respect you and love you and care for you. So just take it as it is, smile, be lucky that you're getting that test, and then go ahead and provide that space and that safety. Guys, have an amazing week. We'll see you next time on the TPM show.